Welcome to the Point of View Show. My name's Andrew Tran. I'm your host. This show highlights business professionals in Asia and around the world to get an understanding on what makes them effective, how they do it, and advice to help you grow in leadership, branding, marketing, and sales. For more information, head over to my website, www.andrewtran.asia. Before we get into it, smash that subscribe button and click notifications whether or not you're listening or watching this. It helps me a ton and it helps other like-minded people find these episodes a lot easier. Now let's get on with the show. My next guest is Michael Kawula. He is an entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience, having built several seven-figure plus companies, from a local cleaning company, an online office supply store, which was ranked 144th fastest growing business in the US, to an online SaaS tool for social media. Currently, Michael is chief evangelist for Sales Rocket, a B2B outreach tool, and teaching struggling businesses the qualified business path, a method of building quality business you love. Our chat was really cool. We spoke a lot around sales and growth, and I wanted to kind of get his opinions when it comes to some of the challenges he sees when brands are creating lead gen programs. I also wanted to ask him, because of his experience over the years, what has changed over the last 5 years when it comes to growth hacking. And I asked for his advice when it comes to CMOs and C-suites as we look to reframe problems. What kind of advice does he give towards that? So really interesting take on it. Hope you guys like it. Give it up for Michael Kawula. Michael, how's things going?
It is going fantastic today.
Oh, wait, I noticed, because Australians, we say, how's it going? And a lot of Americans get caught out. They're like, I'm going good.
I'm going well.
I'm going well. I'm going good. I'm going well. Sorry, these things happen, man. But no, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I'm super happy because I've kind of seen your work through the years, and as a blogger, and then coming through and being fortunate enough to actually get to speak to you. So I'm super happy with it. So thank you so much for coming on to the show.
I appreciate it. And I do try to put out good content, daily. It's on LinkedIn and everywhere. Something that I think, no fluff. I forget the podcaster who said that if you want fluff, go pet a bunny. So, I'm normally straight to the point. It's hardcore information that's not going for the likes, but it's going for what actually people need in their business.
Yeah, definitely. And for anyone who's watching or listening, I'll put his details in the description below. So actually, first and foremost, with today's episode, we're going to talk about marketing, specifically sales and growth. Michael, if you weren't in marketing, what would you have done?
It's funny. I don't consider myself in marketing, because I grew up in it. I had a father that had an ad agency in New York on Madison Ave. And so I spent a lot of time from the age of 6 driving in the summers with my dad to go to his office because my parents were divorced. And so he'd stick me in the mailroom or whatever. But growing up all the way up through high school, I spent every summer with him, and it was a company that did point of purchase advertising. So if you walked into a store and you see a tobacco display or, cosmetics display, what gets a consumer to interact with that display and really make, potentially a purchase, right? And so growing up, I geeked out over that stuff because my dad would always walk in and just tell me, look at the display. It's this color because of this. It's this shape. It's positioned this way because of this. And so it was all this information, and I really geeked out over it and loved it. So, now I'm married. I've got 3 teens, and it's funny, all my guy friends, when they come over on Sundays to watch football with my wife, I'm the one that's actually hanging out with the women or what have you, because to me, my sport that I watch is business. I love marketing. I love business. So, I don't know what I'd be doing. It's, again, it would probably be business.
That's so cool to be exposed to that kind of psychology of selling and emotive action at such a young age is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's real short. 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity of interviewing a college professor that's written the book really that all colleges use on marketing. It was a fascinating interview, but before the interview, before we hit record, he was actually telling me, he's like, asked the same question that you just did. And I told him, he's like, what was the name of the company? And I said, Popeye, Point of Purchase Advertising Institute, because I spoke at one of their conferences. this guy knew my dad. My dad passed away when, unfortunately, I was a freshman in college. But it was just, it's funny how this world works.
Wow, small world, very small world. Nice. All right. Well, moving on. Like as you know, for anyone who's watching or listening, today's episode is all about sales and growth. And one question that I love to ask growth hackers or sales leaders is around kind of lead gen programs. And for yourself, Michael, what are some of the things or common mistakes you see when you look at brands or teams when they start looking towards strategizing a lead gen program?
So I would say the biggest mistake is just even the word that we just used, and I use it a lot too, unfortunately, which is hacker, right? So sales hacker, growth hacker, funnel hacker now is the big thing, right? And those are all tactics, right? And so I think where I see a lot of folks, making a mistake is really not thoroughly understanding who their customer is and seeing that customer journey all along the way. Because easily the fastest way to grow a company today is what? Strategic partnerships, right? So if you know where your customer is before they do business with you or where are they going afterwards, reach out to those brands, right? And find a way to do something strategically together. But when you ask a lot of folks, who their customer is, they just rattle off something, but they don't thoroughly understand, like, what magazines are they reading? And is there a commonality there? What podcasts are they listening to? What blogs do they comment on? Like really diving deep. Do they have children and what have you? Because sometimes you see folks who are marketing like on TikTok. So I just interviewed a great TikTok influencer, and her audience she's had millions and millions of views on all her TikToks, if that's what you call it. And her audience is millennials, like much younger, right? Whereas, I was speaking to somebody that was following her and saying they were following her strategies, but it wasn't working. But this individual's market was the sandwich generation, which is, those in the like 45 to 55 range. So obviously you can't copy somebody's strategy. And had she slowed down and really just understood and seen like, how does her customer, a 45-year-old, interact on TikTok? I'm not saying don't go on TikTok because 45-year-old people are on there, 55. My wife's on it. But how does my wife interact on it? And how does she comment on it? And now when you start really diving deep into that and spend a day, now you can be much more effective with your marketing.
I love that because it's something that I preach to my clients as well, and to anyone who listens. Like, understand who your customer is. And I love how you just mentioned like some of the media they consume. It's a lot of people when they talk about who your customer is, they talk about, oh, he's he or she is a corporate, they've been in this business for X amount of years, but they don't necessarily talk about the media they consume. Are they more focused around traditional media versus contemporary media? Where do they get the latest news? Is it from their family? Do they trust? Is it a family business versus a corporation? Like all these like small little elements that make up who the customer is through the media that they consume, like adds towards that persona at the end of the day. And when you start looking at tactical elements and levers to pull, those, understanding what kind of media they consume and understanding where those zero moment of truths are is such an important place. So yeah, I totally agree.
And you mentioned the word persona, understanding, especially if you're selling a high-end product to a company, that there are multiple personas that you're selling to, right? And so you're selling to the actual end user that's going to be using that product inside of the company. You're selling potentially to the CFO who's making the financial decision. You're selling to the manager that's overseeing that person. And now you need to create content that speaks to each of those decision makers, right? Because it's not just one person any longer that's, making that, purchase if it's anything of significant, cost. So I really think people need to slow down and understand that, understand the whole buying cycle, understand everything they can about it, and then go out and strategically create that content and communicate with those people so you can strategically partner with them too.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And kind of moving along, like when we talk, I know, we just talked about like you don't like using the word growth hacking, but when we start looking at how brands accelerate their, their growth per se when it comes to their marketing activities, you've been in, you're a veteran. You've been doing this for a long time. What have you seen over the last 5 years when it comes to growth acceleration?
again, I think there's a lot of noise out there. So folks need to be very careful of that. So I'll use as an example, Clubhouse, right? I call it club noise. You see a lot of folks that have jumped on it, but again, they didn't have a strategy in place when they went on there. And so, when I do group calls with folks and I'm speaking with their teams, I'll ask them questions like that, like, and I'll hear back, well, I'm on Clubhouse. Okay, how many times have you raised your hand, or how many times have you started an actual one yourself? And they won't say any, right? And so that's not a strategy then, right? That's not a growth hack, for your business. What I see is working really well today is really what worked yesterday and a couple of years before that. It's identifying really strategically who are the folks out there already have your audience, and can I, find, there's a famous individual by the name of Chet Holmes. He has since passed. He wrote The Ultimate Sales Machine. I was fortunate, got interviewed by him, and he tore my business apart. It was very, very humbling. But in there, he talks about the Dream 100. And now everybody, you say that word, everybody's like, oh, it's Russell Brunson. But it's Chet Holmes is the individual that spoke about that. But every business, regardless of your size, should know who are the 10 big publications out there in your market. Who are the 10 big podcasters, 10 big authors, 10 big bloggers, 10 big Instagram folks. And as you go and you create that, you come up with what's called your Dream 100. And those are the individuals that you as a brand, or you as a salesperson, you as a marketer, should really be interacting with day in and day out, becoming their best friend. Because now when you develop that relationship, you can find a way to strategically partner with them, because what can they do? They've got your audience's ear. You already did your research, so you know that. So they can send you what? Traffic. And now the question is, as a brand, is once you have that traffic, how are you activating that traffic, right? And so that's really the big thing. Do you have a pixel on your website? Are you retargeting to those individuals? You should be. If you're not, are you capturing their email address so as that you can now bring them through some type of relationship building? And I think that's where I see a lot of problems. Sometimes things happen between marketing and sales, right? So sales wants more leads, obviously, right? And so they're pushing marketing for more leads. And so marketing is getting them more leads, but sometimes the quality of those leads, start to diminish, right? And then what happens when sales doesn't convert that lead? That's got to go back to marketing too. And start bringing that relationship, know, like, and trust, right? And sometimes, it used to be 7 touches. That's not 7 touches anymore. It's much more than that. And sometimes they might not be ready right now. Only, 7 to 10% of folks might be in market right now. So you're just going to ignore those 90% that you got to come to your website and you've got their email? No, you got to, hone that message. And now once they become a customer, I think that's where the real gold is. If you want to say, Mike, what's your best growth hack? It's go to your existing customer base, work on your the onboarding with them. You should be setting up regular calls with them, multiple different people in different departments of your company, depending upon how big your company is, to really isolate and get to know them very well, because those people are associating with your other customers that aren't doing business with you yet out there when they're networking. And if you delight that customer, they can be your biggest referral source for your business. And I think a lot of folks ignore that.
I like how you just use the word, it's like nurture. Like you've got, leads take a long time before it converts. And there's all these different touch points coming through. So how do you nurture that prospect through those different stages in order to kind of convert? And then once you've converted them, what is that after sales process coming through, and how are you engaging with them? Like, I love it.
100%. So,
Yeah.
and it's so I have my process typically is, you got to study your customer, right? And study your competitors. Number 2 is really get good on your messaging and what differentiates you from everybody else, right? So I don't know if you have this over by you, but State Farm and Allstate, they both sell insurance at the end of the day. And so is there really a difference, right? And that comes down to your messaging and whatever as a brand. And so once you have those 2 things completed, now it's, I'm getting traffic. What are your different ways of getting traffic? What are the different ways to activate that traffic? Once they're a customer, how are you nurturing that relationship so as that the final process works the best, which is virality. How do you create word of mouth marketing? Because when that happens, what happens? You get more traffic, which activates, becomes and so it's that cycle, right? And it's that loop. And so how do you create that going, and how do you pull those levers? And that would be the next thing that you do, which is, I say, step number 7 is really analyzing your numbers, diving deep into it, and continually saying, where am I getting 80% of the results in my business? And typically that's coming from 20% of those efforts. And then as you look at that, it's like, okay, how do I dive deeper into that? And then how do you strategically start testing different parts of that? So is that you say 60 or 70% of that I'm going to keep, 20%, I'm going to try to test that out. And then 10%, I'm going to go crazy with something out of this world and see if I can get some insane results and discover new opportunities.
Do you think, I mean, you've done all these type of programs before. Do you think though, over the last, say 5 or even 10 years, your process has changed a bit because of the way consumers, like you said, there's a lot of noise in the marketplace. So there's a lot more different channels to kind of reach them by. Like, have you thought about that?
So I think for the educated marketer that's also realizing that, innovation is happening very fast. And so, when we see an opportunity, we're not afraid to jump on it, right? And be first to market. So like right now, something that I have on my radar to test out a lot more is YouTube Shorts, right? And so the reason for that is that YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, and it's owned by who? Google, right? Number 1 search engine. It's evergreen content, or it's everlasting content. Once it's uploaded, it's going to stay there. And YouTube is looking at the marketplace right now and saying, well, how do I compete against somebody like Instagram or TikTok or what have you? So they're going to be giving a lot of attention to YouTube Shorts right now for the early adopters to it, just like LinkedIn did for LinkedIn publishing. Everybody listening probably knows that, right? And so, but then all of a sudden it disappeared, right? Facebook pages, Facebook gave a lot of attention and push years ago, but then it eventually disappeared, and now it's Facebook groups, right? And watch out, because Facebook groups, you are going to, either have ads showing up in there, or they, much more ads than already, or you're going to be paying for it as a business owner. It's, it is a business, and we can't get upset about that either. We have to, be okay with that. I'm all right with it personally. Funny story is back in 2008, I had started a online e-commerce store. We were drop shipping. It wasn't really a thing back then. But, I was fortunate because there was, a thing called Google Shopping, and it was relatively new. And so what I did is I reached out to somebody in India, built a tool, and we were able to upload 200,000 products for free into Google Shopping. And we were showing up there all the time. But eventually what happened after, I think it was 18 months of, making millions and millions, is that all of a sudden you had to pay for it. And so was Mike going to upload a thing of paper clips anymore? No, I wasn't going to, but I took advantage of it. So, to answer your question, new things can come into the market all the time. We as a business have to have, systems and strategies in place. And back to when I said, like, what's working on our business, 80-20, and we're looking at that and we're saying, okay, well, 60 to 70% of this, we're going to focus on that, but I'm going to be willing to test in this area. And if you're willing to test, can I do it strategically, and not have SOS, shiny object syndrome? Oh, wait, Club Noise is over here. Oh, wait, Twitter Spaces is now out, and I love Twitter, and I'm probably going to jump on Twitter Spaces, but that's because I understand my customer and I know I can take advantage of it. And so I would just say, this is awesome right now because innovation creates, more opportunities for us marketers, but can also create a lot of noise. So if somebody's new, make sure is that, it's not a distraction, and that you don't abandon what's really driving, the core revenue for your company right now.
With Clubhouse, like that audio branding is becoming like a new vogue, I guess. It's like, I mean, we used to have it back in the day, right? With before TV and stuff, there was radio. And so audio was a big thing. And then now, everyone's kind of desensitized by the visual aspects. And now we're beginning to go back, and all this noise is happening. So coming back to those principles of like who your customer is, what are the types of media they consume? What is the 20% that's going to get you 80% of results coming through? I think that's, I think that they're awesome tips for anyone who's watching or listening. So Yeah, thank you so much. But hey, look, like we're finishing up. I want to ask you I ask everyone this question. It's advice. And for yourself, Michael, like for anyone who is a CMO or a C-suite, what type of advice would you give them when it comes to reframing a problem that they're facing?
I think all problems can be solved by going to a customer and speaking to the customer and really getting to know them much better. So it depends how big of a company you are, right? Can you fly them in or can you fly out and really go spend time with them? When, last time I had a real job in corporate America was 20 some odd years ago. But I remember we flew in, our the folks who were doing, I believe, if they did 100 million or more with us, we would fly them in and, really spend a fun weekend with them entertaining, but spend a lot of time understanding them and what are their problems. So I think if we're having a problem in our business, either our team can help us solve that. So spend a lot of time with your team and really getting to know them. Right. And then number two, spending time with the customer. So a lot of times, we're looking at all this noise out there. um, Ignore that. Focus on your team, focus on the customer, and you'll be okay.
Nice. Short, simple, and sweet. Focus on the customer at the end of the day. I love it. Thank you so much. And Michael, for anyone who's watching or listening that want to reach out to you, what are the best channels to reach out to you by?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm extremely active on LinkedIn, and as you know, I think you messaged me, and I'll have a conversation, with anybody, provided that they're not trying to sell something in the message. When we get to know each other, it's actually I'm making a post on that tomorrow. It's funny because I just it's that dance, right? I think as salespeople, we can't be afraid to ask for the order. We can't be, but there's a balance, right? We got to waltz with somebody, as my old manager 25 years ago told me on Wall Street, Mike, waltz with people first. And so we have to create that back and forth, but you also at some point have to ask for the business, right? And so it's that waltz. So let's connect on LinkedIn. Let's get to know one another, and I'm happy to jump on conversations like this with people all the time.
Nice, nice. And for anyone who's watching or listening, I'll put them in the show notes below. So thank you so much, Michael. And for anyone who's watching and listening, thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next show.